This is a Storm Tracker 13 Weather Alert Day.
Thank you for waking up with us on this lovely Sunday morning. I'm Gabby Jonas. Today is a weather alert day as Tropical Storm Chantal sweeps through the Grand Strand and PD, bringing heavy rain and winds. We start the show this morning with live team coverage. We're joined by both meteorologists Krista Chang and Hannah Ronner, who are keeping up to date with this storm. We'll send it over to Krista for a first look at the radar. And Krista, how's it looking right now?
Yeah, Gabby. Well, earlier this morning, that tropical storm did make landfall about 4 a.m. and right now we're just...
Krista, thank you. And meteorologist Hannah Ronner is live in Surfside Beach, where she's been monitoring the winds for us. Hannah, good morning. What can you tell us about the wind speeds we should be anticipating?
Good morning, Gabby. So yeah, as you mentioned, we're live in Surfside Beach. So of course, beating on the immediate coast, the winds are going to be a lot more noticeable than if we were like sheltered by maybe some wooded areas on the left or right of us. But yes, it is clearly very windy. Thankfully, we're not getting battered with any raindrops at the moment as well. Do have wind speed device out here. The winds are going to be coming out of the southeast, but as Chris already mentioned, Chantal has been pushing inland. So we're kind of like at the worst conditions, I suppose, for the morning time. And as we get into the afternoon and evening, things are gradually going to be improving. Winds eventually calming down. But a lot of the heavier rain for Myrtle Beach was kind of earlier this morning before the sun came up. And now it's the outer rain bands up into coastal North Carolina. But for wind speeds, we're seeing them frequently sustained around 20 to 25. But all throughout the morning, especially for reports off of the local piers, Spring-Made Pier, the gusts have been tropical storm force, which would be 39 miles per hour. And they've been in the 40s if we include yesterday and also what we're seeing this morning. The biggest thing is that the wind is also going to be kicking up the surf. We remain to have a high surf advisory in effect until 8 o'clock this evening. The waves in the surf zone, so that's of course where the swimmers would be, which obviously wouldn't recommend that for today, but the surf zone waves will be 4 to 7 feet, which is more than double what they would be on an average day at 2 to 3 feet. Coming up a little bit later in the show, hopefully we can make it onto the pier, get a little bit more of the chop on the water just to see how conditions are. But thankfully not seeing a ton of people out here. Again, at least it's not actively raining, but still a few people walking their dog and even taking a morning jog. So if you can handle the wind, not too hazardous out here right now, but again, it's always something to keep in mind. This is going to be the first tropical system that we've dealt with in 2025 so far, and hopefully we can pray it doesn't get much worse than this as we continue into hurricane season. Gabby?
Hannah.
Me? Sorry. Am I good? Sorry, okay. So, yeah, not the best connection going on right now, but it is getting a little windier compared to when we last checked in with you guys about 30 minutes ago. We're still at Surfside. We did get a little bit closer to the water, but we are currently waiting on the 8 a.m. update from the National Hurricane Center, and likely with Chantal, of course, being over land at this point, it is going to get weaker and weaker, so likely going to be a tropical depression again here shortly. But again, of course, we're standing here at the beach where there's the high rip current risk and the high surf advisory. The waves are going to be anywhere at 4 to 7 feet. I'm going to move out of the way here, kind of getting a look at the pier. If you notice, like the concrete pylons, they're going to be wet all the way to the top. So the waves have been, of course, high enough to get the whole bottom of the pier soaked at this point. And we've definitely seen some pretty huge waves. The good news is that we're not seeing anybody in the water, which is always going to be some good news there. Visibility is pretty bad at this point, mainly just because it's so windy that it's kicking the spray off of the ocean. But visibility is definitely less than a mile. I can't even see Spring-Made Pier, which is not that many miles to the north of us right now. So again, at least we're not seeing a lot of people out here at the moment. Getting a little bit rainier too, but again, it's not torrential downpours. Most of those have shifted up into North Carolina at this point. But otherwise, we're moving okay. Let's just make sure that we know that impacts are not just felt here at the coast, they're also going to be felt well inland. And we do have an excessive rainfall outlook across the PD, and a couple of the rivers would be getting into action or even minor flood stage in the coming days, like the Black Creek near Quinby. Really easy for that river to fill up, but it's expected to be rising about 5 feet over the course of the next couple of days. But even when it's rising 5 feet, it's still only expected to be around 7 feet, which is not going to be impactful for residential communities. But again, impacts here at the coast, very gusty and very rainy, but just know you have to deal with that across the PD as well. Back to you.
Krista, thank you. And meteorologist Hannah Ronner is live in Surfside Beach, where she's been monitoring the winds for us. And Hannah, good morning. What can you tell us about the wind speeds we should be anticipating?
Hey, Gabby, it is windy outside. We did try to go a little bit higher, mainly because the wind is not going to be interrupted, kind of, just because we were below the pier. But the winds are still sustained around 30 miles per hour, and the gusts are well into the 40s, which is tropical storm force winds. There is a few people out on the pier and also a few out on the beach. Thankfully, no surfers. It seems like every time we have a landfalling tropical depression or tropical storm, surfers think that's just the best news ever because the surf is so much higher than normal. But haven't seen any surfers. Seeing a lot of fishermen, though. But again, we have the high surf advisory and the high rip current risk in effect until 8 o'clock this evening. And honestly, all throughout the week, even leading up into Chantal, we did still have those moderate rip current risk for the 4th of July holiday on Friday, and they did just get worse. Again, they're at a high level, high threat. We should not be having any swimmers out in the water right now. Currently, of course, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. We are in between tides right now. The next tide is actually low tide around 10:40 this morning, and we are going to have another high tide around 5:15 in the evening. That one is forecast to be around 5 feet, which is a little higher than normal. But usually when we are wondering about storm surge or coastal inundation with water, that's about 7 feet. So we are not going to be quite near that. So our typical flooding areas that we would usually watch for storm surge, like Garden City and Cherry Grove, that upcoming high tide around 5:15 is not going to be high enough to have a major impact in that regard. But again, the beach conditions at this point are the worst because we already dealt with our heavy rain fairly early this morning, and that tornado threat has shifted up into North Carolina with the outer rain bands. So conditions, yes, windy right now, but we are going to be improving as we continue into the afternoon and evening. Reporting live on the Surfside Beach Pier, I'm Hannah Ronner, and back to you, Gabby.
Thanks, Krista. And as the storm brings in rain and winds across the viewing area, it's also creating hazardous surf. Meteorologist Hannah Ronner joins us live this morning from Surfside Beach. Hannah, good morning. What can you tell us about the conditions you're seeing out there right now?
Good morning, Gabby. So we have kind of shifted our position a little bit. We were down on the beach last hour, came up here about 30 minutes ago, trying to get like a nice little elevated area here to get a better wind speed reading. But even when we were down on the beach, the winds are about 22. I got 25.5, 26.3 right now for these winds. And this is sustained. I mean, it doesn't really get much lighter than this. We are getting a few more gusts that will be tropical storm force. But now as Chantal is continuing to push inland, the winds are gradually going to be dying down. For Horry and Georgetown counties, the worst conditions associated with Chantal were early this morning when the system was first making landfall. And I think a lot of us ended up sleeping through kind of the worst conditions and especially the heaviest rain for the coast because, again, Chantal made landfall just a little bit before sunrise. But we have high surf advisories, high rip current risks in effect as we continue to go throughout the day. We were seeing somewhat of an improvement in terms of visibility. I could actually kind of see some of the buildings off in the distance, and there was kind of more of a distinction in the cloud cover. Like offshore, it was looking a little lighter. I even saw a glimmer of some sunshine not too long ago, but it is kind of just like rolling in and out. It's still a little bit on the dicey side. But again, the main impact with Chantal is by far these surf conditions, which are still going to be even a high moderate rip current risk into the next couple of days. It really doesn't end as soon as the rain stops. Before North Myrtle Beach, they already broke their rainfall record for this morning. They had about, again, 4 inches of rain, and the record was only 1.9 inches from 2002. So a lot of the heavier rain has kind of begun to wind down a little bit more, shifting up into North Carolina, but the beach conditions really aren't going to improve much for today. The good news is that Chantal didn't really create much of a storm surge that we need to worry about. Back to you, Gabby.
Thanks,